So when you fly on a commercial airline, right as you're about to take off, the steward or stewardess says that in the case of an emergency, a bag will fall from the ceiling to give you oxygen, and make sure you put on your own mask before helping other people. And the reason is that you're no use to anyone else if you aren't taking care of yourself first. And that applies here with this Chinese coronavirus as well. The White House just suspended all USAID foreign aid because they caught USAID, which is the United States Agency for International Development. They caught them using taxpayer money to send PPE and medical equipment overseas as foreign aid. So while Americans are dying in hospitals and nurses and doctors can't have the masks, they're using homemade masks, they're using garbage bags. While all that's happening, federal employees were buying up PPE and sending it overseas as foreign aid. It's pretty egregious stuff. So this was a post that USAID proudly put on their news press release page. It came out 2 days ago. It came out on March 30th. And this is listing all of the programs that they are using taxpayer money on to fight the coronavirus overseas. And as you can see here, they proudly say that they've now spent $100 million of emergency aid funding. Now, this is before the additional $95 million that Congress just gave USAID. So in the stimulus bill, Democrats demanded that there be over $760 million of additional foreign aid. Now, that goes to things like the State Department's diplomatic efforts. It goes towards the Peace Corps. It goes towards foreign disaster assistance. And it also goes towards USAID. They're getting $95 million extra on top of this $100 million that they're talking about. So I want to go through this because they proudly, ridiculously enough, they proudly list every single country that they're donating to and sending medical equipment to fight the Chinese coronavirus. And when you see Americans dying, when you see that American hospitals don't have the equipment they need to fight this virus, it is insane to think that government employees are bidding against American hospitals. Because when they're buying masks, they're bidding against the states. They're bidding against the hospitals trying to get them too. So they're buying this equipment and then sending overseas as foreign aid. It's maddening. So let's go down the list. Angola, they're getting $570,000 of assistance. Burkina Faso is getting $2.1 million in health and humanitarian funding. Cameroon is getting $1.4 million. Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, $1.6 million. Ethiopia, $1.85 million. Kenya, $1 million. Mozambique, $2.8 million. Nigeria, more than $7 million. Rwanda, $1 million. Senegal, $1.9 million. South Africa, $2.77 million. Tanzania, $1 million. Zambia, $1.87 million. Zimbabwe, oh, poor Zimbabwe, $470,000. And that's in addition to the extra humanitarian funding being provided to the Central African Republic, 3, the Republic of the Congo, 6 million, Somalia, 7 million, South Sudan, 8 million, and Sudan, 8 million. So that was just Africa. That list, all those millions of dollars, that was just Africa. Let's jump to Europe and Eurasia. Albania is getting 700,000. Armenia is getting 1.1 million. Azerbaijan is getting 1.7 million. Belarus, 1.3 million. Bosnia and Herzegovina, 1.2 million. Georgia, 1.1 million. Kosovo, 1.1 million. Moldova, 1.2 million. North Macedonia, 1.1 million. Serbia, 1.2 million. Ukraine, more than 1.2 million. Uzbekistan, $848,000. Now let's shift to Asia. This is going to be interesting. Afghanistan, we're sending them $5 million. We're giving Afghanistan $5 million in health and humanitarian assistance to support the detection and treatment of COVID-19 there. Bangladesh is getting 3.4 million. Burma is getting 3.8 million. Cambodia is getting 2. India is getting 2.9 million. Indonesia is getting 2.3. Kazakhstan is getting 800,000. Kyrgyzstan is getting $883,000. That's very specific. Laos is getting $2 million. Mongolia, $1.2 million. Nepal, $1.8 million. Papua New Guinea, $1.2. The Pacific Islands, I guess that's a bunch of different island nations, are combined getting $2.3 million. Pakistan's getting $1 million. The Philippines are getting nearly $4 million. Sri Lanka is getting $1.3 million. Tajikistan, $866,000. Again, strangely specific. Thailand's getting $1.2 million. Turkmenistan is getting $920,000. Timor-Leste is getting $1.1 million. Vietnam is getting $3 million. And then general regional efforts in Asia will be 1.6 million. Now, again, we've only gone through Africa, Europe, and Asia. We still have to get through Latin America and the Caribbean. So we got Jamaica getting 700,000. We got Paraguay getting 1.3 million. Haiti's getting 2.2 million. The Caribbean as a whole will be getting 1.7 million. And then you have other humanitarian assistance for this being provided to Colombia, 8.5 million, and Venezuela, $9 million to surveil the spread of the virus, provide water and sanitation supplies. Just think of that. We're sending $9 million worth of testing equipment and sanitation supplies to Venezuela and Colombia. We got Middle East and North Africa. Morocco's getting 670,000. Tunisia's getting 700,000. Iraq is getting $15.5 million. $15.5 million. And this new assistance builds upon the long-term investment in Iraq, including nearly $4 billion in health alone and more than $70 billion in total U.S. assistance over the past 20 years. Libya is also getting $6 million, and Syria is getting $16.8 million. And then here we go. The United Nations, because we all know that every dollar and cent that goes to the United Nations ends up being used against us. Here's the United Nations. The United Nations is going to be getting $24.3 million in global and regional programming through international organizations like the WHO and UNICEF. The WHO, that's an interesting one. The WHO, as far back as January, was parroting Chinese Communist Party talking points and claiming that COVID-19 could not be transmitted human to human. So they were basically carrying the Chinese Communist Party's water on that, spreading lies, spreading misinformation. So we're going to be funding them through USAID. And then there's going to be $64 million that's going to be going to different refugee and humanitarian response plans through the United Nations. So this was put out proudly. The United Nations put all this, not the United Nations, sorry, the USAID put this out proudly that they were spending over $100 million. Again, that's not including the $95 million that Congress just emergency authorized in the stimulus, that they're spending all this money overseas. And there are Americans dying in hospitals because there's not enough protective equipment and there's not enough medical supplies to go around. We have doctors being taken off the front lines because their hospitals can't get their hands on any masks. And we just sent the second batch of masks to Thailand last week, week and a half ago. They've gotten 2 batches of PPE. We're sending it to everyone except for our own hospitals. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Listen, the United States is the most charitable country in the history of the world. We have helped more people escape poverty, escape tyranny, and escape natural disasters than any other country in history. Period. That is a fact. And when this is all done, we will turn our gaze outward and we will help the world yet again, just like we do in every major calamity. But right now, just like when you're on the airline and the bags drop from the ceiling, you have to fit the bag over your own mouth before you help anyone else. The United States has to put America first before we start trying to save the rest of the world. We absolutely have to. So I applaud the Trump administration for doing this. I applaud Pence and the task force for suspending this aid. But frankly, this aid is mandated by law. In the stimulus bill, Congress required that USAID distribute $95 million in new aid on top of this. So short of congressional action, repealing that, the Trump administration can delay it. They can suspend it temporarily. They can say they need to look at it. But by law, that aid will have to be dispersed eventually. So only an act of Congress can stop this, which is why at Conservative Daily, we're calling on everyone to reach out to their congressmen and senators and demand that they put a stop to this. Suspend all international aid immediately and make sure that every bit of medical equipment and personal protective gear in USAID's custody, instead of going overseas to help other countries, is redistributed to help Americans. Now, if you agree, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. It really helps as we try and grow this channel and get this kind of information out there. Thanks.